My name is Casey Gibson, host of the Crowning Moment podcast, and this is my episode with the Pageant Project.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. Apologies for running a bit late. Casey and I were getting into chatting already before we went live. But my special guest for today is a host of the Crowning Moment podcast, also Miss America's United States and Miss North Carolina Global USA, Casey Gibson. Casey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is awesome. This setup is amazing. And yes, we were definitely getting into some tea before the actual time we were supposed to.
Yeah, I feel that for those of you watching, if you don't know, obviously, if you haven't seen my interviews before, I've interviewed, I think, over 300 pageant girls now over the last 7 years. Geez, 7 years. I'm looking at my calendar. Casey has interviewed huge names, like household pageant names. And when you do what we do, you hear everything that goes on behind the scenes. Casey, let me start by asking you this. Do you ever wish that maybe you could go back to not knowing everything?
Sometimes I do. I lay in bed at night with my eyes looking at the ceiling and I'm like, oh gosh, like there's just so much information that I know that is off record. And that's the hardest thing coming into interviews like this. People are like, hey, like this needs to be off record or I don't want to talk about this. So then I just have all of this knowledge. I'm like, I can never share it with anyone. But when you get, with interviewing, like I am with you behind the
Yeah.
scenes, we can talk about it because you're like, oh, I already knew about that. So it's nice. But sometimes, I do wish that I didn't know all the information I do.
Yeah, sometimes I need to sort of take a step back and go back to what I call normal world, just where people have no idea about this and just, hang around other people. But let me just read out your bio for people who aren't familiar with you. So Casey is a 23-year-old Systems Integration Analyst for a large aerospace engineering government contractor, currently residing in North Carolina. She was recently crowned Miss America's United States 2022 and will be representing North Carolina at Miss Global USA next July. A graduate of USC College of Engineering and Computer Science, Casey was also a Division One Cheerleader, a Presidential and Dean's Honor Roll student, and a recipient of Silver, Bronze, and Gold Presidential Service Awards, as well as Duke of Edinburgh International Service Awards in Bronze and Silver. Not done yet. Casey is the host of the Crowning Moment podcast, not the Crowing Moment podcast, which offers listeners a look into the world of pageantry and has over 15,000 listeners in over 60 countries. Podcast can be found on all podcasting platforms and can be followed on Instagram at Crowning Moment Podcast, which you can see below Casey's frame there, and on YouTube. You can catch Casey on the next Pageant Vision live show where she is a TV host for Pageantry. All right, Casey, where would you like to begin? I'm out of breath. That's a lot.
Well, yes, that is a lot. I'll kind of unpack a little bit of that because when we start throwing service awards in there and kind of all of that in one is just a lot. So I want to break those down first. So going back to the Presidential Service Award and the Duke of Edinburgh International Awards, those are when I competed in the Miss America system as a teen. And as a Miss, I was able to do a lot of community service hours. And with the Duke of Edinburgh, those take, 3 months, 6 months. And I'm now working on my gold, which is 12 months. And that's of doing service each week as well as doing like almost like a health and wellness checkup every week, whether you're doing a workout or just things like that to keep yourself in check. So that's probably one part to break down of those international service awards. Just because the late Duke of Edinburgh has passed doesn't mean the award has disappeared. So for my MAO girlies out there, it's no longer their like major like award that they do anymore, but it's still out there. So there's plenty of things to get for that. College, my degree and my job sound like kind of like out of this world.
I
like
studied
crazy.
aerospace engineering, just so you know.
See, okay, so now you can, oh gosh, somebody that understands. Sometimes it's hard to explain to people what tracking data and metrics and all of that fun jazz of technology and aerospace engineering. It's kind of hard to explain, and I know you probably understand me on that. If somebody asks you, what do you do for a job? My short-term one is I make a dashboard look really pretty. And they're like, okay, so are you in marketing? And I'm like, no. I make numbers make sense. That's truly how it is. And then I guess going into my college stuff, I went to the University of South Carolina for all of my Gamecocks out there. I also was a Division One cheerleader. I transferred into USC from Winthrop University, which is in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So my first year, I did Division One cheerleading, and am actually still the background of Winthrop University's athletic page. So if you scroll on their website, I am the cheerleader on the screen, which is kind of cool. I get to count that in all of my like media awards every year. So that's pretty nice. But yeah, so that's kind of just a little bit to unpack all of that entire bio, which is a lot sometimes.
That's a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't know about yourself, but when it comes to me interviewing someone, I feel the less I say, the better. Because when I bring someone on, I want them to talk. I don't want to talk about myself. But I feel like that's been waiting to burst out of you for a long time. Because it's like,
Yes.
just because I'm interviewing doesn't mean I have my own backstory.
Yes.
'Cause, let me. Oh God, I don't know where to begin. Let me start with the presidential awards and the service awards. So obviously, service is a huge part of who you are, and I love it when pageant queens do that because they want to do it, not necessarily because it's for a pageant. So where did that love of service begin? Because you're dedicating a large portion of your life, from what I can see, to service. So where did that heart for service begin?
Well, when I was around probably 4 or 5 years old, my mom was a part of the junior league and, like, women's group all over where we lived in Kershaw County, South Carolina, and that was just something that I watched her do, and so being able to watch my mom give back to the community, whether it was at candlelight tours or feeding the homeless, like, just doing different events, I was like, "Wow," like, my mom is a superwoman, and so
Mm,
from that, I was like, "I wanna be like her one day," because she gives back to everyone around her, and that's where, like, my love for it really started, and so then she started taking me to these events. She was also a cotillion teacher, and so any chance I could to help and kind of teach others and just work together and basically give back to my community, because at that time, I was, free labor, and
mhm.
so my mom really used it. She's like, "This we're gonna teach you that just because you're doing something, like, don't expect any sort of money or recognition out of this, like, you should be doing it because you want to and that you
Yeah.
have a good heart for it," and so really just watching her be the superwoman she is truly just gave me that passion and just the light inside me to go out and help others as much as I absolutely can.
And how does it feel giving back to your community?
I mean, honestly, sometimes going into certain situations, you never know what to expect, especially going into, feeding or soup kitchens. You
Mm,
you don't know where they've come from, but honestly, just giving them good conversation and just telling them like you are loved, you're welcome, we're happy to have you here. Like whatever I can do for you in this moment, please let me know. And like I said, you just never know where they're coming from. And when people hear that, they are just so grateful for anything that they can have, whether it may be a pair of socks because they have a hole in their socks or they didn't have socks when they walked in. And
yeah.
so it really just makes you just feel grateful for what you have, and making sure that you can give that to someone else is very important. And my parents were very, very good about teaching me that at such a young age that been able to take it along with me all the way to 23.
Yeah, just near where you're at, I have one good friend in particular who lives down in South Carolina, and a few friends, a few people I've interviewed around the Carolina area. How easy is it for a young person such as yourself to find a volunteering opportunity? Because I kind of get both ways. Some people say, "Oh, I can't find anywhere to volunteer," and then other people such as yourself have volunteered at a whole list of places. So obviously the opportunities are there, but how easy is it to find a volunteer opportunity that obviously is safe for young women to potentially go to?
Absolutely, and it's so sad nowadays that we have to think about, "Is it safe for me to go to this
Yeah.
event?" It's just the day and age that we're in, it's just so sad, but there is so many opportunities around us. When I was in college at the University of South Carolina, I was a part of a service sorority, so we did community service. It
Oh
was a
wow.
part of
Okay.
our just what we did, and so we worked with Easter Seals, and then I know another big one that a lot of girls in South Carolina do help out with is the Ronald McDonald House, and
Hmm.
so giving where you can, going in and feeding. There are Ronald McDonald House all over the state. I know one in Charleston, one in Columbia, as well as if you're in the top of the state, there's one in Charlotte. I've visited all of these ones so far, being in South Carolina and being right next to Charlotte. But if you truly just go on Google, look up your county, look up wherever you're at in your state, there are so many opportunities out there. And I know this may be old school, but look at the newspaper. Some people still get those.
What?
They're still real. Check the
And what?
newspaper. Yes, truly. because they'll have events coming up. I know like Girls on the Run is another big thing that we have here in South Carolina, where it's girls after school that just want to get active, or be their parents may not be picking them up on time, or they have job obligations so they stay after late. And my mom is actually a part of that club at her middle school. She is a librarian for. And so at those, they do like a huge run at the end of the year. So reach out to those type of running or walking tournaments that they have going on, or competitions where you can help out, be a water girl, or help them set up. Because even when I was at
Mm,
Winthrop, that was a big thing to get publicity for the school and for the basketball team. We would always go to these events and we would be in our cheer uniforms and cheer people on at the very end. And especially if you show up in a crown and sash, they love it. So anytime that you can put on that shiny crown going to fun events like that, definitely do.
mm.
But always make sure that you ask whoever you're going into the event with or for if this is acceptable for you to have your crown and sash on.
Good point. Yeah, I like to, yeah, because sometimes it's not appropriate to be wearing a crown and sash in various areas. Let me just ask you quickly, South Carolina. My friend from South Carolina was telling me how great South Carolina is, and I have another friend in Georgia, and who has the same name, so she was getting a bit competitive, and she was because Georgia is known as the peach state, as you
Yes.
well know. And she said, well, you know how Georgia is known as a peach state? South Carolina has greater quantity and greater quality of peaches. Can I just get clarification from you on the peach debate before we move on? Does South Carolina have more and better peaches than the peach state itself?
Yes, if you've ever been to Maccabee, South Carolina, there is a massive peach farm there. And when I was younger during school, they would actually take us as like a field trip to Maccabee, and we go to the farm. And it was really amazing. But yeah, it is. We do have more. I've never understood that. Even on the Starbucks, my favorite thing are the Starbucks mugs that have like the Been There series. So they have different things from the state. I always get
Yeah.
so angry because they call us the rice state, which I've never seen rice fields. Like, I've seen cotton, I've seen corn, and peaches. Never have seen rice in South Carolina. Maybe I just don't live in the low country. I've always lived in the middle or the upper part of the state. But yeah, no, we have better peaches in South Carolina.
Okay, so now that we've started a war, South Carolina, because I was going to ask you what South Carolina is known as, because I know Georgia is the peach state, but is South Carolina the rice state?
I've never seen it, but according to Starbucks, we are the rice state, which for us, I've always known us to have peaches and cotton
Yeah.
and corn. That's really all I've ever known us as. I've never had to do a state food that we were, so I'm not really sure. We can do a quick Google search on what we are. Let's Google it and see what South Carolina is really known for. I just know from
But
Starbucks it's rice.
so Georgia is peach. Someone was telling me that Tennessee is known as a volunteer state. So, but what's South Carolina known as?
Oh, you said Tennessee. I thought you said Florida was the volunteer state. I was like, wait
No,
a
no, no,
minute.
Tennessee.
Okay. Also, it says the state fruit of South Carolina is peaches. So we'll just go ahead and put that one there. And
I
that
am
was
so
the
confused now.
official fruit by Act number 360 of 1984. It grows over 30 varieties of peaches. So there's the two
I
there. But
thought
yeah,
there was
for
just peaches.
I know, now there's 30 different varieties. Now we're getting all this
Wow.
information. It's a history lesson today. So Tennessee is volunteer state. Fun fact,
Yep.
I was actually born in Tennessee. I was born in a
Oh,
town
okay.
called Hickson, right outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And for South Carolina, I mean, we're always known as the Palmetto State. And if you actually look at our flag, where you would think it's actually a crest for like a moon or a crescent moon, it's not.
Yeah.
It was actually from one of the wars. It was a metal plate that the soldiers wore to protect their chest. So it's actually a
Oh,
chest
wow.
plate. It's not a crescent moon. Yeah, so that's a fun
Right.
fact about South Carolina.
How much trivia do you know? You sound like you'd be the perfect person to bring to a trivia night. Or am I just happening to ask you questions that you know the answer to?
No, I actually, in my spare time, I work at this place called Navigator, which is navigating your beverage of choice. And I'm 23, we'll put that out there. But we do have a trivia night, and I am rather good at it. So, South Carolina trivia is definitely one of my number ones. History was one of my favorite things in school growing up. So, You just asked the right
Oh,
questions, I guess.
okay. Because I am useless at trivia unless it's like the two subjects that I know about, and pageantry wouldn't be one of them, believe it or not. But then you also mentioned Starbucks. We're going to get to pageantry in a sec, but Starbucks. Now, I saw on your story, I believe somewhere, energy drink or coffee. So you said energy drink, right?
Yes.
Whereas me, this is the third one for the day, and it's only just gone 8:30 a.m. This is coffee. So you prefer energy drink to Starbucks.
Yes, and I will tell you why. One, self plug, I have another podcast coming out called Caffeine Happy because if you know me, like we're getting to know each other, I always have some sort of caffeine close by right now. My drink
Oh,
of choice
Celsius.
has
Nice.
been a Celsius. They also make Celsius in like little powder packets, kind of like you can pour like, like any sort of powder into water
Mm,
and shake it
yeah.
up. So that's been another favorite. I love my coffee. When I'm on the road, I grab a coffee and it's probably a ice shaken espresso, oat milk, brown sugar to be exact,
Oh,
with I
nice.
like 5 shots of espresso, which is a little much, but I am someone who is very ADD. And so I need the caffeine to level me rather than make me hyper because I am all over the place if I don't have my caffeine.
It's really funny, isn't it? Because some people drink caffeine and they're like, "Ugh, ugh, ugh," like this. I just drink. I don't get faster unless I've really overdosed.
Yeah.
But it's more just for me. It's to function. But for you, it's to what level yourself out, like make you feel a bit more even keel.
Yes, like, I can drink a Celsius and then fall right asleep at night. It's
I
it's
can,
kind of
yeah.
wild. I probably should go to the doctor now thinking about this, but oh well.
I can tell you what the doctor's going to say. The doctor say you probably shouldn't do that, but if you can sleep, then it's fine. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
What flavor are we drinking here? Is that it looks like watermelon?
This is watermelon, but I do like their it's called Tropical Vibe, it's the pineapple flavor. That one has been my new like, since we're going into spring, summertime, I've been trying to drink things more, tropically. So, yeah.
Well, you're going into summertime. I'm going into wintertime, and I'm very unhappy about it. But just moving on, I feel like we should get a sponsorship from Celsius for this podcast
Hey,
episode.
I would love it for my next podcast coming out, Caffeine Happy. I would love an energy drink sponsor.
Do you ever meet someone who, I mean, you must have, who just doesn't have any caffeine whatsoever, and like their drink of choice is like a green tea? Well, green tea has caffeine, but like a herbal tea. And do you ever wonder, like, how are you alive? Like, I've had moments where I've just sworn off coffee because I felt like it's bad for me. But it's not just the caffeine. I do love the buzz, but it's also the taste. I love the process of making a coffee. I trained for a little bit as a barista, so I love all the
Ooh.
gadgets and stuff. Probably the engineering side of me, get the
Yeah.
exact grind amount, tamp it down, all that stuff. Um, but do you ever catch yourself wondering, you don't drink caffeine? What's wrong with you?
Yes, I had actually done a pageant this past summer, or yes, it was this past summer in June. It was Ultimate International Miss, and I had met a girl that this house right here, who didn't drink caffeine, had never drank caffeine, and she was in the MS group. And I'm not one to
Oh,
judge, not one to judge, but it's like the side eye, like what is why? How do you not drink caffeine? And I'm over there. It was 6 a.m. hair appointment, and I was chugging a Monster like through a straw, just like chugging it. And I always drink the sugar free. I'm very good about not having too much sugar. My girl Pamela would be so proud of me for not having so much sugar. But yeah, so I've met someone like that and I was just shook. And my mom goes, "Do you want anything from Starbucks?" And I'm like, "Mother, stop. Do not be a bad influence."
5 shots. How?
Mhm.
Because look, Starbucks is not cheap. Nothing is cheap these days, mind you. How much does a 5 shot drink at Starbucks cost you?
Okay, so I've actually mastered this. If you go into the app and try to get the brown sugar shaken oatmeal espresso, order it as the name, it's like
Mm.
$6, okay? But if you just go in and order a ice shaken espresso and then customize it, it's only $4.74. And so that's what I do is I go in and I do the same, no classic 5 shots, and I change the oat milk for almond milk because my
Mm.
skin breaks out with oat milk for some reason. And
Right.
then I do the 6 pumps of brown sugar and add the cinnamon powder, and it's literally $2 cheaper. So, yeah.
I feel like we're providing a lot of useful, valuable information on this episode.
Yeah.
That's for 5 shots. Gee, that I'm just doing the conversion in my head to Aussie dollars. Like a coffee around here, let's say a latte, which would only be a 1 shot, maybe oat milk, whatever. would probably be about $4 these days, but that equates to probably just under $3 American. So it sounds like you guys are paying a lot more for your
Yeah.
coffee than we are. Mind you, Starbucks is not cheap. I think Starbucks would be a bit more expensive.
Yes.
Um, I'm wanting. Well, my dentist is wanting me to come off coffee a little bit because I like drinking it black, and it stains your teeth. So, do you have any particular recommendations when it does come to energy drinks? Because I want one that doesn't taste like it came out of a test tube, if that's okay.
Yes, that it almost tastes like I feel like if I were to drink battery acid, which sounds really unhealthy, that's what some of these energy drinks taste like, and I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh." But I have figured out that the Monster energy drinks, they're the all colored cans that are sugar free. They
Hmm.
are more of like a they taste like a juice rather
Okay.
than it tasting like something like battery acid or coffee where it's got that like bitterness. And the color
Yeah.
for teeth, I actually just got my teeth whitened like probably 2.5 months ago. But as my upkeep for my teeth, I use the toothpaste Arc. It's like ARC, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have one that it's like a two-in-one whitening and healthy gum anti-cavity one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that one, like, really, it helps. It helps a lot. And I don't know if this lighting is actually going to give me good looking teeth. I might be smiling
Yeah.
for no
Well, your teeth
reason,
look
but
great. Your
yeah,
teeth are
but
whiter
that
than
one
the
is
wall behind you.
that's been my biggest thing because my best friend's a dental hygienist, or she's working to be, and she's like, Casey, you cannot be drinking that. And another thing I've switched to is drinking out of a straw when it comes to my coffee.
Yeah.
So, which is a pain in the
Yeah.
butt sometimes if you don't want to have
Yeah.
to keep re-cleaning because I'm trying to be reduce, reuse, recycle, and use the straws that I'm not constantly throwing away. So that can get kind of a lot in the dishwasher.
I know. Yeah, look, there's all this stuff that I feel like I should do and I should know better, but I'm lazy sometimes. And like, I
Yeah.
know I should drink the coffee through a straw. One of my best friends does it. I'm like, I don't really want to drink through a straw because I'm a dude, but also a metal straw. And like a metal straw for a long black coffee. It's like, what am I
Yeah.
here? Like 3 years old? And then, yeah, the whole brushing with the white. But anyway, like Monster, okay, I'll try the Monster one only because a few of the girls that I know are Monster Energy girls. So I think
Mhm.
they will appreciate me drinking their drink of choice. I'm sure they're not paid for it at all. Okay, but that's that. We should probably get to pageantry. So let's go
Let's
for
do
it.
it.
Now, if I just zoom out for a sec, we'll go to here. So you can see Casey's sash wall. Mine is strangely bare. I have no sashes yet. I have. That's from the last time I was over in America. That's from a gun range, and I found out that I was
Okay.
very good
Yep.
at. I found out that I was actually very good at shooting things, which might disturb some people.
That's
It was so.
very
It was
hashtag
awesome fun.
America.
Well, yeah, I was there. I was working I was doing social media and programming for a tennis company because the biggest tennis YouTube channel in the world actually is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you like, I
Wow.
think that's even more surprising than you guys being the rice state. Is the
Yes.
biggest tennis YouTube channel comes from Wisconsin. But I was there. It was my last day, and I didn't. I was like, "Well, is there anything that I can do just for fun before I go back home?" And he says, "Have you ever shot a gun?" I was like, "No," because in Australia guns are illegal. Very difficult to get a gun. He goes, "Oh, go to the gun range and fire a gun." So I just take my passport. I've never fired a gun before. Next thing I know, I'm in this booth, and you got a handgun. You got someone with an assault rifle there, and then a shotgun. And it's like, wow, it's the most American thing that you could ever do. Is just go somewhere. All you
Really?
need to show your passport and start shooting things. And I've never shot anything before, but I've put that up on my wall. Maybe I should replace it with something else. But I'm getting off track. Pageantry. Tell us how you got involved in the crazy world of pageantry to begin with.
Well, this one goes right back to my mom. I have 2 older brothers, and my mom wanted us to be able to talk in front of people, whether it be, at school or doing a presentation. And my mom actually put us into acting. My brother played Tiny Tim in a ballet. My other brother did acting in his elementary and middle school. And then I got into the musical side of acting and theater, and I absolutely fell in love with just being on the stage. And it was like a few months before the Cotton Festival of Bishopville, which is a Little Miss South Carolina prelim. So if you're from South Carolina, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just all the girls from all of the states. It's almost like a mini Miss like South
Hmm.
Carolina MAO pageant. It's basically like
Yeah.
that, just a mini version because most of the girls that do that one go do Miss South Carolina because they normally have talent.
Yeah.
So my mom enters me and I walk right on the stage and walk right off. And my mom was like, "Oh my Lanta, like why did we do this?" But then after that I realized because she actually made me walk around the baseball fields because I have two older brothers, they played baseball, and get the good luck sweetheart signature. So I ended up getting this huge crown and I was so excited. I'm like, "Oh, well, I can do this." And my mom's like, "Girl, we're going to have to get you a coach. We're going to have to do something because walking on stage and walking off is not how it works." So I worked so hard after that, and the next title I had was Miss Springathon Petite, and I was still in cupcake dresses. I think I was probably 7 or 8 at the time, and after that, I was just absolutely hooked. I got the pageant bug, like everyone gets it, but it was just the matter of fact of going on stage and being able to, walk in front of people, be able to hit my spots and do everything perfect was what made me happy, and I was super excited, as well
Mm.
as doing the community service side of it or getting the Sweetheart Awards. That just, I don't know, it just boosts my confidence at such a young age that I definitely needed because I was the kid that was the smallest in the group, or I just wasn't, I was not that pretty back then. So then after just competing in pageants, it really helped just like boost that confidence for me. So I just kind of kept going and that's how it started.
Are you able to even think who you would be if you hadn't done pageants?
I I honestly sometimes I'll sit back and think like what would my life be like if I
Yeah.
didn't do this or open this door? And I mean, I think my ultimate goal I would have ended up being probably a ballerina because that was something I was really into at the time, but pageants kind of got in the way of it because I had to go to
Mm.
events or I had to be in parades and my dance school was like you're either in or you're out. You have to fully commit to us and I chose pageantry over it. So I think I
Yeah.
definitely would have ended up going and dancing, I don't know, maybe Broadway, go large in a charge, why not? Because I was already doing musical theater, why not have just kept
Yeah.
going? So I think that's probably where I would have ended up if I didn't do pageantry, but I do not regret that at all.
Either way, it sounds like you would have wrecked your feet. These are
Yeah,
both industries which are not kind on your feet.
nope.
And how did that lead to the Crowning Moment podcast?
Well, this one actually started okay, so I started Creating Moment a little over a year ago, so not this past October, but the October
Hmm.
before, and it really happened off of just really hard pageant seasons back to back to back. So I'd competed in a national system my senior year of college, and at this point, you're graduating, you have a lot going on, you're trying to decide what's next for me in life,
Yeah.
and I found this pageant system and I was like, "Oh, I'm super excited, like, it has to do with, being in college and stuff, let me try it." So my mom and I, we go try it because she's like my pageant buddy. So we do everything together. And so
Yeah.
when I say we, that I mean my mom and I. And so we had gone to do this pageant and it was just not at all what we expected. It definitely, I wouldn't call it a scam pageant, but it's
Hmm.
definitely teetering the line of it.
Yeah.
And it really after that just wrecked me because I had never had to experience just the trauma, the financial strain, the emotional and mental, like, just coming off of that of like, "Oh my goodness, what just happened?" So,
Yeah.
immediately afterwards, I joined into another system because this director was like, "Please come, please come, please come, like, this will be great." And I won a little prelim for, USA National Miss, and I was Miss Anderson for that. I was like, "Oh my goodness," like, okay, I'd never done this system before, super excited, completely different from the other system I was just
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
And so I go and do that one, so it's time for state, and I get first runner up. And I was like, "Oh," like, you're so close, you can taste it, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is great, this is great." And then after that, it just was a constant battle of first runner up, first runner up, first runner up. Anytime I tried to do anything, and I was like, "What am I missing? What am I not doing right?
Yeah.
I don't understand." So then you start, picking yourself internally of like, "What did I do wrong?" So then I flipped it in my head, I'm like, "Well, why does everyone else wanna come back? If they get first runner up, or if they don't even place in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever they're placing into, why do people still compete?" Like, I truly wanted to know. And so I, started writing down all these names of people that I had competed with and watched them, big
Mm.
names like Rachel
Hmm.
Wyatt, who's now a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and Sydney Ford, who is competing in the Miss South Carolina organization, who was also a first runner up in the past, the year that Davia Bunch won. There was all these big name people, and I wanted to know, like, okay, you didn't win either. And it's not that I
Mm.
wanna talk to the word would not be losers. I wanna talk to
Yeah.
people that got so close to taste the victory. What did you do after that? And so I kinda sit back and I kinda talked about, okay, why am I here? What is my why? And that's when I was driving, I remember I was driving on number 1, which is, like, the main road in my parents' town, and I called my mom and I'm like, "I have a crazy idea." And she's like, "This is normal, okay." And I said, "I wanna start a podcast." And she was like, well, what would you talk about? And I said, I want to talk about pageants. And she said,
Mm,
okay, why? And I said, well, I've looked it up. There's only a few out there. I had, of course, come across the pageant project at that time. I'd seen that you were doing interviews with people, and I'm like, I want to understand why people continue to compete or why they even competed in the first place. And I don't want to limit to just that. I want to talk to why do sponsors want to sponsor pageants? Why do
mm,
directors and
yeah,
designers want to be in the system at all? And so that's where it just kind of start one after another, it started getting bigger and bigger. And the first guy I actually interviewed was one of my brother's good friends. His name's Byron. And he is actually the director of the Miss Gamecock organization, which is the University of South Carolina's pageant that goes to the MAOs for South Carolina or the USA system. And
right.
I called Byron and I'm like, I have a crazy idea. You are another crazy person that I know would love this idea. So let's sit down together and just talk about it. And so after just doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this was amazing. The stuff that you learn about other people, and I know you understand this from talking to them, that you would have never known from a 30-second reel they post on
Mm,
Instagram or meeting them
mhm,
for even just 30 seconds in person, you would never know. And so I learned from Sydney Ford, for example. She did this because she wanted to pay for school. So she knew coming into this, if I don't win, how
yeah,
can I make my money? And that's
yeah,
from the sponsorships, the scholarships, reaching out, doing the community service, writing the papers to get money on the back end. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I was looking at this all wrong this entire time. I was just always so focused of I'm coming in to collect the crown. That's all I want. I didn't worry about
mm,
anything else around me. And so then I took a step back and I said, no, no, no. Like the next pageant I go into, I want to do and take every step I need to, whether it's preparing every day, doing mock interviews, doing everything I needed to do that I was not taking advantage of in the first place. And that's doing the optional awards and doing all of the different
yeah,
competitions that they have and just giving in full, give everything into the pageant. That's what I did with this title. And I ended up getting first runner up. And we got to the onstage question. And my goal, because I was like, you know what? I just want to set a goal. I'm not here to win. I want to set a goal. And my goal was to do an onstage question. I was like,
mhm.
I just want to answer an onstage question because I had a horrific onstage question in ninth grade where they asked me what book had I read recently. And I will not even say the answer. I said it was not an appropriate book to talk about on stage.
Okay.
Um, I'll tell you, it was the book of Mice of Men. I don't know if you've read it. We had not gotten to the end of the book yet. And in the end of the book, they do someone, and I didn't know. And yeah, and I said, this is my favorite book. And everybody in the audience is like, is this
Oh.
girl crazy? Yeah, so my goal was to just answer an onstage question. And so I said, what
Yeah,
pageant can get me an onstage question? And in my brain, I said, okay, well, I have to make it into the top 3 before I can even answer an onstage question. So that's when the preparation of everything else came into play. That was a really long-winded answer, but that's truly how Crowning Moment started is, okay, now that I've met all these people, what am I taking from it? So every time I
mm,
interview
mm,
someone, I learn something new that I can either adapt to me or teach someone else in front of me that
yeah,
may be looking for that reason or that why to continue. And that's Crowning Moment. Crowning Moment gives you all of this information. What you do with it is up to you. That's just kind of how I give you all the tools, all the resources you need, but you just have to listen. And that's
mm.
really all that I'm speaking for you. It's your time to listen. And with I have my own personal platform that is listen then speak. I always say I've done my
I love that.
listening. It's
Yeah,
my time to speak. And so
yeah.
that's what Crowning Moment is.
Yeah, I love all that. Even listen and speak. I mean, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and I think a lot of
Yes.
people get that in reverse. And you can't be a good interviewer, in my mind, if you don't know how to listen. I don't think it's about saying the perfect thing. I think it's about listening and then being able to respond, which is why in all the interviews I've ever done, I've never had a list of questions because I listen to what the person says, and then I have a conversation with them. It's like you go on a date with someone, you don't have a list of questions. Well, I mean, maybe some people have a list of questions. I don't know. But see, here's where it gets really fascinating, just to trace our sort of comparative journeys. So obviously you started, you've been doing it for over a year now, but you had pageant knowledge before. Me, no pageant knowledge. Pageantry is much smaller here in Australia. And I got into it in a very circuitous route, in a very weird route. I never planned it. But I'm just curious as to what you've learnt over the interviews you've done, because if I talk in generalities, first off, I had no idea about pageantry, so the only stereotype I had in my head was miscongeniality. And I had begun interviewing, but I hadn't interviewed pageant girls. And I remember the only thing I said was, I'm not going to interview a model because a model will have nothing interesting to say. Now fast forward 6 years, like almost all of my best friends model. Maybe not professionally, but they model. So I learned, because I had this image in my head, an opinion, and I wanted to challenge it. I just wanted to make sure, if I'm going to hold on to this opinion, I want to make sure, actually, is it right, or like, is it true or not? I can't be 100%, but is it true? So I challenge it. And then I interviewed a pageant girl. Then I went to a pageant event. And then people started wanting me to interview them, and on and on and on. And then 300 plus interviews later, 100 podcast episodes later, in terms of what I've learned, like, so many people were asking me for pageant advice. And I always say, it's not because I'm so smart, and it's not because I know so much. It's just because I've talked to so many people and they know so much. And I've just kind of been a sponge and absorbed it. And now I can kind of regurgitate it. For example, what you said about knowing why you're competing. If anyone asks me, what's your number one piece of advice for pageant girls competing, I said, it would be know your why. Like, why are you here? And if it's because you want to win the title, great. If it's because you want, you want other goals as well. Like, going in to only win the title, I think it's okay to say that.
Absolutely.
But I think you also need to break it down and go, okay, why do you want to win the title? Is it because you think you will feel a certain way after winning it? Because that's not going to work out so well. But I'd rather people set, goals that are within their control, rather, because pageantry being very subjective. But fast forward to this point where, know your pageant, why, all this stuff. But I'm just curious as to know your journey, because that's kind of been my journey to this point, where I've just absorbed so much pageant knowledge and I can talk about it for hours, as you can tell. And I know you can as well. What has your pageant journey with the Crowning Moment podcast been like? What have you learned, and how has it been absorbing information from some of the biggest names in the industry?
Well, one that I do want to bring up, because I had reposted this probably 2 or 3 days ago on Instagram. It was actually from Albany, who I interviewed, the Miss
Ooh.
USA, who is now Miss Universe. Shout out to her, because she is awesome. And everyone will always ask me after I speak with someone, just like I spoke to Team USA, Farron Meddy, they're like, do you think she actually won? And it's nice being on the side of, I can absolutely agree that after I talk to these people, I'm like, they won. They may not have won it on stage in your eye. However, I always believe that interview is what wins a pageant. And some pageants are different. They get, all messy. But I really do think a pageant is won in the interview. And that's what some of these girls had done. And you can watch, like, going back to Albany, you can watch how she walks on stage and you're like, that girl is a winner. Like, you can just see it. Some people just don't want to accept that because they'll have their blinders on, or they just won't say anything. And so with Crowning Moment, I've learned to take off those blinders and really just kind of not dissect is the word, but really do, like, look into the detail. How they move their legs, how they move their head. Are they doing the same thing as everyone else? Are they cookie cutter? Or are they this pageant patty? And after talking with her, the video I had reposted the other day, she talked about how she was first runner-up in her prelim for her local. She was first runner-up again in her local. She was first runner-up at Texas, USA. And she said, I just kept coming back. And in my brain, I was like, oh my goodness, I now can understand and share the same story with her of, I feel that. I was first runner-up back to back to back, and it hurt. And she said, but that's what lit a fire under me. And I can agree to that, is that's what lit the fire under me. And so that's why I like to take those blinders off, look into the details around me of, like when people ask me, do you think that person actually won? And I can respectfully say, absolutely, because I got to interview them and tell you why. So coming from this, you learn so much from other people. It's just how you ingest that and kind of soak that up is how you're going to get it out. And through this entire journey I've had with Crowning Moment, that was the thing in the beginning. I'm like, how am I going to remember all these things that everyone tells me? And so I really do go back, one, because I edit all of my own stuff. I do everything in-house. I go back and listen to my episodes after I post them. And so then I'm like, okay, what other golden nuggets can I pick up from these episodes? And one of my favorite ones was actually with Lisa Opie, who owns Beauty by Lady Code and the Lady Code shop. And she actually had competed in multiple different pageants. And they told her because she was too ethnic for that state, she would never win. And after just hearing this, I'm like, Lisa, like, what? Like, this is the craziest thing. And so there's things that you would have never expected people had to deal with and overcome. And then I have to sit back and think, like, okay, what would you do in that situation?
Mm.
How do you analyze this? Because I'm someone that thinks of a process. I'm, that engineering mindset. I'm like, okay, what is start to finish? Like, how do I troubleshoot this problem?
Yeah.
Even though I've never dealt with it, but crowning moment has given me the opportunity to think about all these problems or all these, hardships that people have had to really go through in life. And I'm like, if this ever happened, how would I be able to, one, help a friend that may be going through that, or two,
Mhm.
help myself? And
Mm.
sometimes at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. And so that's one of those things is crowning moment has taught me that if it's just me, I love my pageant family. I love my group around me. I know that from everyone that I've ever talked to, I have learned something in some way that's going to help me sleep through this night, wake myself up in the morning. Like that is truly what crowning moment has helped me just know that I will be okay because I have just such a loving, amazing family around me that I've created that I would have never expected having if I
Yeah.
didn't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I can certainly relate to that. Let me ask you this. I mean, having interviewed some of the people that you've interviewed, have you been able to identify sort of what other traits that maybe I wouldn't necessarily say winners, but I mean winners in life. I mean, you may not ever wear a crown on your head, doesn't mean you're not a winner. Because pageantry being subjective as it is, but someone who has a winning attitude in life and goes on to create a fulfilling life. And I always say the best way to succeed in pageantry is to create an amazing life outside of it. And you bring that version of yourself to pageantry, and people will see it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, doesn't matter to you because you're happy to go back to your life. You're not running away from life to go do a pageant. But have you noticed any sort of common traits? Like if I was to ask you what are the three top traits of successful people in terms of the people you've interviewed, something like that. What would you say?
Hmm. I would say the first one that comes to my head is authenticity. So it's,
Hmm.
truly knowing who you are deep down really does divide who is a winner here and who is still doing that soul searching looking for themselves. Once you've figured
Yeah.
out who you are and you know how to explain that, give it in a 30-second pitch to someone, like you're golden. Like that is,
Mm.
and you know who you are through and through, and you're not going to sway on your morals. You know everything. That's a really good person to definitely, like, at least look up to or admire or say, "How did you do that? How did you
Mm.
find yourself?" Because most of the time, they're gonna tell you of the hardships that they had to go through to
Yeah.
find themselves, and so that's something that you can't copy what they do. You cannot copy
Mm.
them, you can't copy their way, but you can still see their equation and figure out
Yeah.
how your life can work into that equation that you can make for yourself. So I think authenticity would definitely be a good one. Determination. I know that for myself is because watching other people, you can be like, "Oh, that girl is so driven. She's so determined to get this crown." But at the same time, you only see the highlight reel on the
Mm.
Instagram. You only see those high moments that they're posting and allowing you to see. I know for myself, I have gone through the trenches. I mean, between having to deal with body image and any sort of low confidence moments, like I had to deal with those behind closed doors sometimes because it was not
Yeah.
acceptable
Yeah.
probably 5 to 10 years ago to even talk about that. That was not mental health was not a topic
Mm.
at the table or welcomed. And so being determined behind doors is what excelled me and pushed me as my own leader personally to be on top. And I would say the third word. What's a really good third word? Hmm.
There may not be a third one. I mean, the
I don't
first two
know.
have
Those
already been
2, I feel like
fantastic.
those are good, especially just explanations of my own life. Is just being my true authentic self as well as just being determined all the time. I mean,
Mm.
I tell people I like to stay busy, but it's not that I don't wanna not have moments of peace and sitting down by myself.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm just so driven to how can I make another form of revenue? How can I make my business better? How can I do anything that I'm already doing better? And it's not that I don't think it's enough. It's just I know that inside me, I could be up
Mm.
here. It's just, do I have
Mhm.
the determination to take it from a 1 to a 2? And so
Yeah.
just for me, I think those would be 2 very, very strong words that
Yeah.
would push for a
Got it.
leader.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I'm talking to myself in some sense, because I mean, you call it authenticity. I would say the same. I would say what you said, what you described, but I call it self awareness. It's someone who has gone through the trenches enough to actually come out the other side and know who they are, and then being able to embrace that and not worry about judgment because of it. I mean, you can't, because the one piece of advice that always gets me is be yourself. But I'm like, well, you can't be yourself unless you know yourself. And you need to know yourself, which you call authenticity, I call self awareness. Like, if you don't know yourself, how can you be yourself? And then also there's different versions of yourself as well, which again comes down to self-awareness. You're not going to be the same at a funeral as you're going to be at a wedding as around your friend. Hopefully, right? I'm sure there's someone who is, but
Yeah.
I think that self-awareness, that determination. But see, it's interesting because you say you're always, I mean, you mentioned the word revenue, and I think in business terms a lot, not because it's about money for me, but I actually really enjoy business. And part of my self-awareness journey is being actually, it's almost like a game to me. It's like, how could I take a business idea and make it work? Or could I take, especially with pageantry, could I take this idea that's worked in business and bring it to pageantry to see what happens? But do you, because very often I will tell people how busy I am, and the words that come back, and it's coming from a loving place, but it's always, oh, you got to slow down, you need to take time for yourself. But I find it really difficult to do that, and I don't like doing it because I like being on the go, I like being creative, and I like trying different things, and I like pushing myself. um, and it's difficult for when people tell me, oh, you need to slow down, or you've done so amazing already, and I'm like, yeah, but I could be better. I could
Yeah.
try this, I could do this, and I could have done this better. Do you ever feel the same way when someone tells you, oh, you can just slow down, Casey, you don't have to go all the time?
Yeah, and I think the hardest thing that someone's ever told me is know when to hang it up. And that right there just is like a jab. Take a like
I
a
don't.
6-inch high heel to the heart. You're like, oh, that hurt. But in my brain, it's I know that I could be even better than what I'm already
Yeah.
doing. What I'm like, where I'm already at with myself. I'm like, why would I hang it up now? Why would I stop? And even, yes, I'm gonna get engaged and get married and have kids one day, but I'm not gonna leave what I'm doing. I may not compete anymore, but I still will be in the pageant industry, striving and thriving and doing everything that I've already been doing. So when someone tells you that, you're just like, oh, like that you just don't understand. And that's sometimes that you have to come to the realization of they don't. They don't know
Mm,
what you do every day. They don't understand. And sometimes people don't care to understand because they think,
yeah.
what they're doing in their life may be very challenging for them and may be very difficult for them in that moment, but that is completely different. I may thrive on what they're struggling and
Yeah.
stressing over. And so sometimes it's having to come and sit down and have that conversation of, I understand you're either hurting or you're struggling right now. What can we do for each other? Because sometimes their negativity coming into your life really just upsets the aura, and we don't need that. We need
Mm.
positivity in here. And I'm not telling you it's not okay to have a bad day because trust me, today was
Oh yeah.
one of those days. But at the same time, coming into this, like it's peaceful for me in these moments where I can sit down with someone that understands this, like the fast moving life. Because
Mm,
sometimes people around you just don't, and that's when they tell you the things of, like, "Just hang it up," and I'm like, "No, I'm
mm.
not." It's just, "You've come so far, why stop now?"
Yeah, when you said that phrase, I'm like, oh, I had an actual visceral reaction to it. I don't like that phrase at all. I think I mean, it's smart at times to really evaluate. I mean, it's always smart to know where you're at and is it working, and then if it's not working, change your approach. But just to give up, and you said, getting engaged, married, have kids. I don't. I mean, I think being a mother is one of the most underrated things in society. I mean, and this is one of the things I noticed, amazing young women, it's often come from amazing parents. And I'm not talking helicopter parents. I'm talking about parents who said, pick yourself back up, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and what are we going to do about it?
Yes.
Um, but I feel very often that people judge, and they judge from their own life experience. They're not coming from a harsh place or a bad place, but it's almost like they're judging you based on their own limitations. And it's
Mhm.
very difficult because I imagine you're on social media as much as I am. It's very difficult sometimes to really filter that out so it doesn't affect us. And I've come to this realization where there's certain people that I love them as friends, but they're not that person that I want in my inner circle that I'm listening to, because if I listen to them, it just creates, I'm going to say, chaos in my life. And I don't want someone in my life who's going to make my life more difficult than it has to be. Have you had a similar experience yourself where you know someone, a friend, and you love them, but it's just like, I need some space from you because there's something not clicking here.
I know this one all too well. In the past had let people come into my life and kind of not, I wouldn't say dictate as the word, but definitely kind of direct me in ways that they thought were
Yeah.
best for me. And in those moments where, I had been first runner up back to back to back, I was in a vulnerable place in my life where
Mm,
I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't understand. I was just in a moment of, it's not right now. Right now is not my time, but I couldn't see in myself when there would be a good time. I just thought,
yeah.
maybe I'm just not fit for pageants anymore. Maybe I just need to
Mm,
quit. Like maybe I need to stop. And in those moments, I would let people kind of dictate and direct where my life should be going, what I should be doing, what I should be wearing, what color my hair should be. And I had to take a step back finally when I realized my life was just a constant, almost like every move I made, like a siren went off. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I felt like I
yeah.
was trapped. And having to realize who those people are in your life sooner rather than later
Mm,
would, I think, have helped me more mentally and physically. Like I really went into a time in my life where mentally I was always in the dumps. I still had to work my 9 to 5. I had 2 different part-time jobs just because I was trying to stay so busy that these
yeah.
people couldn't talk to me. They couldn't
Yep.
message me. They couldn't bother me. And finally, things just kind of happened and they went away, and I don't say that I'm not grateful for them. I'm always grateful for those people in my life because they taught me a lot. From
Mm,
losing, from not getting what you want, you can still learn something. And I learned a lot from that. I learned that I will never let anyone treat me like that again. I will never let anyone dictate or tell me what I need to do. There's a point when, you have a pageant coach or a pitching coach or whatever coach you're
yep.
having, a dance coach. Um, they are someone in your life that is trying to teach you things. Now, if you take all that in, that's great. Be their number one little shining star, but sometimes you have to remember where your line lies in the sand
Mm,
that you are not going to, oops, sorry, you are not going to sway on. Where you, and that's the point of my life when I finally figured out who Casey was. And so
mm,
sometimes it is really hard because you may not see those people right now, but I hope if there's anyone out there that's dealing with those people in their life right now, wake up. Listen to the people around you. I want to give 2 shout outs here to one of my best pageant mama, Willow's mom, and Miss Kiana, because they truly are people that came to me and said, "Let's talk. We're
mm,
worried about you. We want to love on you, like open up to us." And I did, and I finally, pulled the sheet off my eyes and saw that what I was dealing with was not normal. How I was feeling was not normal. And so just making sure that you're not allowing the 100% of negativity in your life. You
yeah.
can you like I said, you can have bad days, but don't let someone else's actions or what they're doing to you cause you to have that bad day. If your
Yeah.
Starbucks gets messed up, that's okay. You already paid $6. Just drink it or go home and make your own coffee. But if someone is constantly a negative like sound or light in your life, you got to put it out. You gotta turn it
Mm,
off because if you don't now, when will you? And that may be too late.
yeah. Yep. Nope. That's good life advice, not just for
Mhm.
pageantry. That's for sure. I mean, it can be difficult sometimes. You have to. I mean, they talk about you are the sort of average of the 5 people that you have around you, and I think that's not just. And they normally mean in financial terms, but I've come to realize that's not just financial terms. It's
Yeah,
mindset. It's your mental health, your happiness. It's you got to be really careful. I think who would not careful, but selective in terms
yeah.
of who you surround yourself with. Let me ask you. I mean, you've interviewed a bunch of people. What have been in terms of interviewing? What what part of the interview do you enjoy the most? I'm not going to ask you what for your favorite interview
Mhm.
because if anyone asked me that, I'd be like, I can't remember them all.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I was
but
trying to pick through my head. I'm like, "Oh gosh, if he asked me who's my favorite, I have no
no,
idea."
no, I also wouldn't ask you that because that automatically excludes everyone else, and then people
Yeah.
get butthurt about it. But what is it that you love most about interviewing? What gets you excited in terms of that?
I feel like the conversation. I'm someone, like I said, I'm very ADHD. I'm all over the place. So I enjoy conversation. That's my dad always says I like to get my words in. And he's right. I do like to get my words in, but I also am a really good listener. So I love being able
Hmm.
to hear other people's conversation as well. So, like you said, with your everything we're doing here today, the whole interviewing process, I don't have questions for mine. I only have 2 rehearsed parts, and that's beginning and the end. And my favorite question to always ask is, in what way has pageants positively impacted you? Because that's a question that I kept asking myself and asking myself, how have pageants positively impacted me? How have they helped me? And so I flip that to my interviewees and I'm like, How has this helped you? Whether you're a coach or whether you're a competitor, whether you're a director, how has this
Yeah.
really helped you in life? And so I think that's probably my favorite part of doing any of it is the conversation and definitely that question.
I do love conversation. I don't think you can do what we do if you don't love conversation,
No.
and if you don't love listening in general. Don't become an interviewer. Do you carry that over into your just day to day life as well? Do you ever find yourself having really long, deep, and meaningful random conversations that go for hours and hours, and you feel like you I don't know what you I had these conversations all the time. As I told you, I had a friend in pageantry over here in Australia, sat down just to go and catch up for dinner. 6 hours later, longest dinner of my life, and the restaurant kicked us out at the end because they were closing. Does that happen to you? Long conversations
Oh,
randomly?
yes, it does, and I'm one of those people that as soon as they say something, I'm like, "Oh, I have a question, like, can I ask you something else?"
Yeah.
And they may be just making a simple statement, but I always like, I'm really intrigued to learn more about people, where they've come from, what they've dealt with, what's just going on in their
Mm,
life. "What latte did you get this morning?" Like, I just am really invested because I work from home, and working from home, working in my
mm.
house through the pandemic, I didn't have that social contact, and so I totally turned into more of an introvert than I usually am
Yeah.
extroverted, and so now it's like I feel like I missed out on all that conversation, so I am just like you, I will sit down, and I know Mary Morris with MB
Yep.
Designs, she does earrings, we'll call each other and we'll just set the phone down. She'll talk, and then, like, maybe 5 minutes later, I'll just respond with whatever we were saying, and we just kinda do that probably once or twice every other week because 'cause we're just like, we just need conversation because she feels that too. She's at home
Yeah.
making earrings all day, and I'm just in in my bedroom, which is my office. So, yeah, definitely, it's just the missing of the communication through COVID, I think that really has affected a lot of my life being that
Yeah.
extroverted person I've always been.
Yeah. Just in terms of interviewing, I feel like you're someone who knows, let's say, a little bit about a lot of different areas. And I don't know if that's because of the interviewing or just, I mean, for myself, I'm a naturally curious person. And the engineering background means problem solver. I always like to figure out how things work. Sometimes it's not great because I can't just look at something and go on. Like my best friend, he's not stupid by any means, but he's a lot more simple minded than me. He just goes, "Oh yeah, it works. I don't know how." I always want to figure things out. So even if it's like someone who's won a pageant, I'm like, oh, curious. Like, how did she win? What did she do? When it comes to my car, I want to figure that out. Um, but I found in interviewing and just in general conversation, to bring it back to that, the more you know about different topics, the better conversationalist you can be. Like, for example, one thing that's come up quite frequently is that I used to be a raw foodist. So when people talk to me about oat milk and almond milk, I used to make my own almond milk, for example. And then when it comes to business, I've done a lot of business coaching. I know about, sales funnels, email lists, and all that. So have you found it similar for yourself that in order to be a good interview, it's very important to be able to build that bond with the person you're interviewing, and that's only if you know kind of what they're talking about a little bit, so you can dig into it.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people that I love researching. I like to call it FBI agent work, but I truly do. I will go in as soon as I'm interviewing someone or whoever I'm about to interview, I look them up. And that's just
Yeah.
something that I just enjoy doing because I want to, if they can't bring things to the table, I can go ahead and ask them. And I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, well, didn't you do this? I saw this on social media." And one of them Marisa Delgado, who was Miss New York, Earth
Earth.
USA.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a picture of her and a few other girls in dresses, and it was in rainbow. And that's how I figured out who she was. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, tell me a little bit about this photo. And then it kind of started, we were able to trail into other stuff throughout the interview. But I like to do my little FBI agent work for that but it is true. Like, knowing a little bit about a lot of different things does help move conversation. My
Mm.
boyfriend is into sports, and so I can recognize people or be like, "Oh, that basketball player, he did this, that, and the third," because I'll see it on TikTok or I'll see it on Twitter because for
Yeah.
some reason my Twitter feed is just all sports right now. So it is great just to know that because then you can talk to so many different people from so many
Yeah.
different walks of life, and it may not just be pageantry. It could be, the person that's fixing a watch at the jewelry store. Like, it's just
Yeah.
anyone and everyone that you can just kind of chat up a conversation. My favorite thing is, what 3 things can I learn about you in 30 seconds? And I normally try to get name, where you're from and what your occupation is, because from that there is someone some way that you can kind of tie it in of, oh, my dad does that kind of work, or oh, my cousin's uncle sister's brother's from there, they can come up with
Yeah.
something. So then
Yeah.
they feel like you immediately know them, of like you're more their friend, because they're like, oh, we have things in common. So I like to
Yeah.
know a lot of things.
Have you found that in terms of your interview skills over the year or so, how much do you feel like you've improved or changed? Because unlike some other interviewers where I can see they would have been really awkward at the beginning and then they've gradually had to learn the art of conversation, you don't strike me like that at all. I think the only challenge, just going on a limb, the only challenge you probably would have had is knowing sometimes to stop talking, because obviously you love to talk, as do I. But
Mhm.
have you found that you've had to, I mean, you must have, but how have you grown as an interviewer? Because it sounds like you've naturally got the gift of the gab, which for a lot of people is the hardest part to learn, but you had that already, I think. So what's the growth for yourself being in terms of your interview skills over the year and a bit?
Well, that's really funny you asked that. I had just done an interview the other night with another episode that's coming out, with a lady named Elise, and she owns Telegenic Queen, which is an online kind of coaching on how to do interviews like this. And so I thought that was
Hmm.
such a great way and someone to bring onto
Oh,
the
cool.
podcast.
Yeah.
And she said, I went and listened to your very first episode. And because I asked her, I always ask people, do you have any constructive criticism? Like, do you have anything that you like from previous episodes that I may not have added in yours?
Yeah.
And she said, I just want to tell you how amazing it's been to hear your very first episode, to hear where you are now. And I remember I was sitting in a dark room with a mic this close to my face, like all of in
Oh,
there.
ASMR.
And literally, it was like an ASMR. It was
Oh,
so
God.
uncomfortable. But I re-recorded my first episode, I think 6 or 7 different times before I finally
Hmm.
was okay hearing myself.
Yeah.
And once I could hear myself, I felt so bad for everyone, because I was like, okay, I don't hate how I sound. But then the issue I ran into was I sounded almost robotic, or like very, hi, this is so nice to meet you. And I wasn't my true bubbly external self. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what Elise had reminded me of. She said, who you were then, being open and all excited. And she said, I mean, of course you were timid and you were a little nervous because you're starting a podcast. You want to be very professional. She told me,
Mm.
she's like, don't forget to be fun. Don't forget to be yourself. She's like, because when she listened to my 1 year recap, so she was the first one, listened to the 1 year recap, she was like, it was just amazing how honest and real you sounded from 1 year later. And so truly, I think just being able to be fun with people in interviews has really brought me out of my shell on screen and in front of the camera that I never would have expected. And that's why I started doing video recordings. Plus, I was interviewing Miss
Mm.
USA, and I was like, I'm going to get this on video,
Oh,
because
yeah.
no one in 10 years is going to believe me, that I interviewed Miss USA, who's now Miss Universe. And after that, I just feel like I had to learn how to be comfortable being myself
Mm.
in audio, because I could do it in person. I can talk to you like nothing ever happened now, but back then I was so scared to tell my story and tell who I was, and now I'm like, let's chat. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm just shuddering to think, because I do have my first interviews ever, like, still up on YouTube, and every now and then, just to embarrass myself and to bring myself back down to earth, I'll post clips from it. And, oh, it was so. I don't know what yours was like. You said you were sitting in the dark doing ASMR into a microphone. For me, I was sitting in my lounge room, looking so awkward. Like, and there's a photo afterwards of me standing next to her to have a photo taken, because back then I didn't know, like, pageant girls, like, they take photos everywhere, and I'm literally standing there with my hands by my side, looking like I'm standing at attention and not smiling, and I'm just like staring at the camera like that. I'm like, oh, but I posted that up. It's because it's good to keep it real. But I remember hearing someone say, because some people have released thousands of podcast episodes when you get to people like Joe Rogan and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk was saying, never, never, ever take down the first ones, because that's going to be there to help remind you of how far you've come. And yeah, I think definitely when you go back, and it's nice to have some outside feedback as well, because sometimes we're so busy doing what we do and we're always trying to make it better. And it's just sometimes nice, not that you need a validation, but it's nice sometimes to get the outside feedback, and they can help highlight ways that you've improved that you maybe not have noticed, like whether you're a better conversationalist or you say less or anything like that. But yeah, let's because we've been on an hour already, and I feel like I could talk to you for easily for another like few hours and still have stuff to talk about. This is why we do what we do. But let's just move towards a close. So just before I get to the final 10 questions, you've given a couple of shout outs already, but any other shout outs that you would like to give?
I think I really shouted out everyone I needed to. I want to, I guess, do like thank yous to you. I guess I'd be like do a shout out for you because this is amazing. I I ever since I started seeing your stuff, I was super excited to be able to interview with you. So this is awesome.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I feel like it's weird sometimes when you talk to someone and you feel like you so much in a parallel on the other side of the world. That's the strangest part about pageantry to me, is the people that you can meet on the other side of the world. You may never even meet them in person. Or have you ever had that moment when you've only interviewed someone, you've known them online, and then you get chatting to them, you message, and you kind of feel like you're friends, and then you meet them in person for the first time, and it is surreal. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, actually with Kim Parrish, who she used to be over the MAO teen group. I had interviewed her because she had randomly followed me on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, she's attached to Miss America's Outstanding Teen. Why not
Yeah.
interview her?"
Yeah.
And then I got invited to speak at Miss America this year about the podcast, and that was amazing. And so meeting Kim, I'm like, "I know you, but this is
Yeah.
weird because you had never like got
Yeah.
to stand in front of them. We had exchanged phone calls and FaceTimes and interviews, but
Yeah.
meeting her in person, it was crazy. I was like, "Okay, we have to take a picture because it's actually
Yeah.
happening now." So hopefully at some point we can meet each other. Maybe I just need to fly across the world and come to Australia.
Well, I may be coming to America in August for pageant stuff and for work. So, and
We'll
I
have to
will be
figure something
probably
out.
near to where you're at, like South Carolina. As I said, one of my good friends in South Carolina, so I probably will be around that area. I think the
Wow.
pageant's in Florida, but yeah, it's a weird feeling when you meet someone like that in person. I often say to them, like, I feel like you're all figments of my imagination. Like, I feel like I've gone insane because you can't possibly exist for real. I've been talking to you for years, but you don't actually exist. But anyway, let's go towards the final 10 questions. So I finish every interview with the final 10. So this is the only part
Okay.
where I don't have a list, but I've remembered it. It's committed, asked it so many times. So number one, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word? Mm, probably okay. OKIE. Because that's how I always, if someone texts me, I just say okay. Because I just like the noise of it. I'm one of those people that says okay, bye. Like I'm one of those. So I think okay would be my word.
Okay. Number two, what is your least favorite word?
No. I hate being told no, but in my brain, I know no is not right now or I asked the wrong person. No.
I just love the expression on your face when you said no, because almost everyone who answers that question with the word no, they just hate the word no so much. Even when they say it, they get a little bit angry. It's really no. Okay, got you. Number three in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Hmm. I don't know. This may sound bad, but seeing my like this sounds bad. Seeing my eyelashes on on the counter because I know that I didn't lose one and I know it sounds gross, but I'm someone that loves to peel the glue off and put the same I've worn these lashes 4 different times. So I think that's what makes me excited about life because I know that I have a good pair of lashes waiting on me for the next day.
That's one I definitely can't empathize with. I've never worn fake lashes, and God hope I never do. Okay, so that was what turns you on, fake lashes. Number four, what turns you off?
Oh, I have an allergy to blueberries, and so I get really upset when I say no blueberries in a fruit cup or like no blueberries in an acai bowl, and they're there. And then sometimes they'll put grapes and blueberries, and I can't figure out which one's purple grape and which one's a blueberry. It makes me angry. I hate it. It just gives me the
Sounds like
ick.
someone's trying to kill you. They give you a fruit cup with blue grapes and blueberries. It's like, here, have some fun. Like, oh, God, someone's trying to poison me. You must have upset someone in your interview. Number five, what sound or noise do you love?
Oh my goodness. Maybe the paycheck noise I get on my phone for, the Navigator place I work at, it's through, like, Gusto Wallet or something, and it does this, like, "ta-ting," like, when you get your like, your paycheck of the week. So I think that's what I like that noise.
Yeah, it's a much better sound than the sound of the noise of the money going out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Better coming in than going out. Number six, what sound or noise do you hate?
My alarm in the morning, I'm someone who snoozes, so it constantly, like, every 3 minutes will go off, and it just ruins my morning, ruins it.
Why don't you just turn your alarm off?
Maybe because I'm lazy, I don't know. I never but I always set an alarm, like, by the 5 minutes. It drives everyone else insane. My mom hates it because she has to come in and she'll turn off my alarm for me. She's like, "Stop it."
Dear me. Number 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I feel like I would be able to read people's minds because one, I already feel like I know a lot about people. So I feel like there's something that people are always keeping back or may not want to tell you right away. And I feel like just being able to know it, then I can comfort them to be like, oh, like I do that too. Or, oh, you're not crazy. Like I feel the same way. I feel like that'd be really fun to do.
Interesting. Number 8. What job would you most like to attempt?
What job would I like to attempt? Um, I feel like I would have definitely said being a TV host, but through Pageant Vision, they gave me that opportunity literally a few
Oh,
months
okay.
ago. So I feel like it's still kind of my dream job because doing more of it, being in front of people is what I like. We like to say it's like the game day for football as it is for pageantry. So I'm a part of that game day counting down to the crown crew.
That's very cool. Number 9. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Ooh, I absolutely hate cleaning toilets. So I think if it has to do anything with cleaning a bathroom, no. I love cleaning, I love vacuuming, I love Swiffering, but put a toilet brush in my hand? Oh, no, no, no. No, no, no.
That's so weird that you like vacuuming because last night we've got a really expensive Dyson vacuum over here, but the battery went flat, and I got a new battery from Amazon, a replacement battery, and I was so excited to use this Dyson vacuum. I ended up vacuuming last night for half an hour just because I loved it so much. It was the strangest. Like I'm going around vacuuming, it's like, oh, this is so much fun, and I'm like, hang on, I'm crazy. Like
Yep,
I'm vacuuming stuff because it's fun. It's like, oh look, it's picking up so much dirt, and then I looked at it like, oh, it's
and it
picked up
makes
so
the
much.
lines. It's the
Yeah,
lines. I love
you
it
can
because
see
I
the clean line.
yes, because I have, like, the power pull
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
trigger, and
yeah.
because I have a shark one, and, oh, I get so excited because I got a carpet setting and a wood floor. Oh, everything's clean.
I'm excited to use it in my car. Like it's such a weird, like
Yes.
I want to see what it can do. And it's like, oh, the most exciting thing in my life now is vacuuming. Like, oh, what's going on here? Anyway, self-awareness, as we've said. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Mm. I don't know, I feel like cliche would be like, "Welcome home," but I feel like the thing would be, "I'm glad you made it," because there's been so many moments in my life where I've, gone against what I thought was my faith, and now finding myself where I am now, being the,
Mm,
godly woman I am, I'm just very proud of my journey through all of that, so I think
yeah,
I'm glad you've made it because there's just been some very deep low moments that I'm glad that I'll be there when it's time.
yeah. Yeah, that faith is very important, especially given some of the times that the world has been through recently. Well, Casey, let's leave it there. We've been on for quite a long time, and I still feel like there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, but we'll leave it there for now.
You set
What was
off
that?
you set off my Siri.
I didn't say.
It set off, it did.
I was wondering who's there in the room talking all of us.
It said I couldn't
I
find that in my library, and I'm like, "Well, I don't know what we're looking for."
I will tell you one practical joke you can play on people is send them a voice note that starts with either, Siri, Alexa, or whatever, and then they play it and it sets off their Siri. It's like, hey Siri, turn my house lights off, or something like that, and they play it and it turns and it's really funny. I was doing that during the pandemic, having so much fun with it. But anyway, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck with everything, with pageants, with life, and the podcast.
Thank you, just thank you so much for having me, this has been amazing.
And I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang out with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.